The movie is made for a theatrical experience. It's such a theatrical event. It is a sound movie. You want to be sitting with strangers jumping and screaming and not eating your popcorn. And I think that was always what we saw for this. And I think certainly with this film, as much as the first one, but this one especially, the world expands, as the Abbott family have to leave their decimated farm. And she's there with a newborn baby and these other two kids. She's desperately trying to keep them alive. The world expands, and so the set pieces are bigger, and it's so thrilling. I'm so excited for people to see it. Well, I think John was always really inspired by the idea of, we know how the Abbott family fared in the first film. They were in almost quite an insular, protected safe haven that gets completely destroyed when Evelyn goes into labor and has a baby in a bathtub. So I think, and then now she's in this place where they figured out how to kill them. So that's a big, hopeful thing. But she's got a brand new baby who doesn't understand the rules of the game. So you have a newborn baby who's a horror tool in itself. And she has these two beautiful children. How does she keep them alive? Where does she go? What does she do? Who will help her? And the idea of, we saw how the Abbott family did in the first movie, but John was like, how did everyone else fare? How was everyone else affected by this world? How are they living? And he was so interested in that. So I think that was why the world has to expand. It's a sequel, so it's got to get a bit bigger. And yet I do feel it's still got the emotionality of the first one. We made the first one without the intention of wanting to do a sequel. So John always liked it being open-ended. And then when the movie came out and it had this sort of meteoric life that was really unexpected and thrilling, obviously, for us, I think we didn't anticipate such an investment in the family or in the world and a desire to see what other mileage you could get out of that world, And I think John had like 30 pitches that came at him. They brought in writers because he was kind of reluctant to write it and do it. And then all of a sudden, I remember a couple of months later, we were in Hawaii. I was shooting a movie in Hawaii. And he suddenly just goes, I have an idea. And that was it. And he pitched me the opening. And I was like, we gotta make this movie. It was just so good. It was undeniable. They're such a couple of powerhouses, the two of them. And there's that theory that you should never work with children. It's so wrong with these kids. They saved us time. They would get it in one take, and John would be like, okay, I guess we move on. I mean, it was like perfect. It was like, they're so arresting and clever and nice, easy, just great parents, great families. They are like our fake children. So I'm so devoted to them, and I love them. And I think it's important for people to see, especially Millicent's character, this really becomes her film. There's a real handoff that takes place. This is her movie. And I think John always felt that was appropriate for the symbolism of really the world that we are leaving our children. Like, how are they going to handle it? How are they going to save us? And ultimately, they will be the ones to save us. The premise is very simple, right? You can wrap your arms around the idea of if you make noise, you're dead. Super simple. Everyone goes, I get that. Instantly frightening if you set it up right, as John did. But I think it has great heart. And I think he recognized as well simple, quite domestic things like doing laundry and then the nail comes up on the step. It's a nail in a step, and it filled people with dread because you've set up that they don't wear shoes, and you've set like really simple tools of horror. A pregnant woman, she's going to give birth at some point. Every woman alive knows you can't give birth silently, or if you can, then I have no idea how you do it. But I think that you've got these quite simple, quite domestic tools that were really easy for people to associate themselves in that environment with, I mean, I'm going to put the pressure all on John. I was kind of like, I know you can do it, But I think he did feel an immense sense of pressure, but I think John quite likes working like that. I think he operates very well if there's a bit of a, gun to his head on something. I think he doesn't mind it. And I just said to him beforehand when he was slightly agonizing about how do I match it, I said, don't match it. Don't try and outdo it. The story's continuing. It's just a continuation. Like, so what happens? What do you want to see them do? But I think he went above and beyond, and he is a bit of a sort of creative hurricane. So I knew he'd be able to come up with something great. And then we had the incredible Cillian Murphy coming in and just crushing it for us as well. Do you know, it is quite quiet, because I think the mistake the crew made sometimes is like, oh, it's a silent movie. And we're like, no, you guys have to be even quieter, like, because you can hear everything. You can hear absolutely everything. So if someone's walking around or moving or eating, you can hear it in the background of the shot, because the sound department are trying to record everything, like picking up a teacup, like what does that sound like? And like they've got the mic on it so that you can, it's so real, you know. So we'd always be like, John, I'd hear John go, guys, it's not a silent movie, it's a sound movie. It's like, please, you know. So yeah, but then we would try and have some levity between takes. Like, it's such an intense movie, so Cillian and I would have a laugh between takes, and we'd just try and release the tension, you know, because it's intense. It's an intense movie. I love going to the movie theatre. It's my favourite thing to do. We do it all the time, and I just love being encompassed and consumed by an experience. I love the dark and the energy in the room and the space between people, and I think it's the best date night ever. It's one of my favorite things to do, and it always will be.